Hey, thanks for tuning in to this week's Virtual Cars and Coffee with Xtreme Xperience. We're doing this every Wednesday at noon Central, and we're really enjoying this, getting a lot of great feedback from all of you. Today, we talked to Freddy Hernandez, aka Tavarish, and we covered his current 675 LT rebuild, his Lamborghini Mercy project, the Bentley he's restoring, Honda Civic he's working on, what's the best car to buy for the first car, what's the best supercar to buy, and a whole bunch of other stuff in between. I hope you enjoy it.
Hello.
Hey, I'm working on some audio. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You guys, everybody can hear me, and yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Awesome, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, no problem.
Are you, looks like you're in your garage.
Yep.
Right on, man. Well, we've got a lot of great questions people have submitted. A lot of people really eager to talk to you. So a real quick background, you guys, everybody. My name's Joe Moore. I'm one of the co-founders of Xtreme Xperience. I'm also the chief marketing guy here. We started doing some live cars and coffee, we were calling it, a few weeks ago when this all kicked off because we couldn't actually get to the racetrack. So we said, let's share our cars with you. Couple of conversations later, ended up with Ed Bolian. You guys loved it. And a lot of you all requested that we speak to this gentleman right here. So here we are. I just texted Ed and he said, yeah, sure, let me connect you to him. And you know how Ed can be. He's a very accommodating. There's no shrewd negotiating involved in that conversation, but really excited to talk to you. I guess do you want to quick introduce yourself? I mean, if anybody obviously doesn't know who you are, they've been living under a rock, but quick intro and tell us about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Freddy. I run a YouTube channel called Tavarish. I also have a second YouTube channel with a friend, Jared Pink, called Wrench Every Day. And I buy cars in really, really bad shape and sort of work on them, modify them, fix them up, and I share that experience with everybody. I have a ton of projects. I mean, there's a Ferrari over here, there's an Audi over here, there's a McLaren back there, and there's a bunch of other stuff over there. Yeah, and that's basically what I do. I just work on cars all day, and sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not, but that's kind of the reality of everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually the majority of the questions that I saw come through were mostly asking about your background, how you got started. So I guess we'll kind of go through these things one at a time. But sure. I actually originally started following your stuff back when you were writing for Jalopnik. I remember I would go to it to look for like cars that I knew would be fun but cheap and kind of like a train wreck. That's kind of always been, I feel like Mercedes and Audis, or also articles about what not to buy because you kind of knew what was going to be a time bomb, whether it's a timing chain or air suspension or whatever it was. So and then when you got into YouTube, obviously things really took off. But I guess that'd be the first question to ask is some version of this keeps coming up, which is how did you get started doing this? Like, I guess along those lines is, do you have any sort of classical training in this? Did you go to school to work on, any certifications? Can you kind of give a little bit of background?
So I don't have any sort of schooling. It's just I started taking cars apart, putting them back together, and usually getting extra bonus bolts and nuts and stuff in the process. But honestly, it's just kind of trial and error. That's how I've been doing it, and it's worked out pretty well so far. But there have been a lot of, let's say, projects that haven't bared any fruit because it's past what I consider like what I'd be comfortable with, or maybe it's just too much money or something like that. But now I have a pretty good grasp of what I'm capable of, what other people that I know are capable of, and what the channel can do. So it's I started off with a 1998 Nissan Maxima that I didn't know anything about cars when I bought that car. It was a automatic, and I ended up doing a manual swap. That was the first big thing that I ever did. And there was some troubleshooting involved, but I got that done. Then I did an engine swap, and then I started buying other cars that were just wrecks, and not necessarily wrecks, but just really haggard examples, really just disheveled and hadn't been taken care of. And then fixing them up, sometimes flipping them for a profit, sometimes breaking even, sometimes losing money. and yeah, just kind of experiencing and getting an appreciation for a lot of different types of cars.
That's awesome. That actually covered a lot of ground, because that was one of the questions, is what was the first car you ever kind of, got your hands dirty on? And what, I guess here's a question. What's the first like higher end or exotic car that you took on as a project?
So the first one was probably my Lamborghini Gallardo. You can probably see it over there. It's right up there.
Yep.
Gallardo Spider, and I bought it on eBay, and it was a fire damaged car, but it ran and drove. I mean, ran and drove, and it was a really, really big project because it has a twin turbo setup. It had a built engine, and all of that was done very, very poorly. So I had to redo all of that from scratch. A good friend of mine now, well, he's now a good friend of mine, Tony, I call him the Welding Jedi, really helped me out with doing a lot of the fabrication work. I designed the turbo system. I redid all the fuel lines, oil lines, the electrical, all that stuff. I mean, the car still has some faults. I mean, the top doesn't work, but it runs and drives. It's tuned. There's always room for improvement, obviously, but that's the first exotic, like real exotic, that I've ever had. The first like kind of nice car that I had was my 3000 GT. You can see it right there.
Nice.
So that's the 3000 GT VR4 that I bought when I was in lived in New Jersey. I ended up selling that to buy my house. I had to pay for down payment. So I sold that, and then I bought it back 5 years later. So that was, it's kind of a serendipity thing, just I found it listed for sale. I'm like, I have to have this. But then the next, so I guess you can call it an exotic, but I bought the Aston Martin Vantage from Doug DeMuro. So Doug had that car, and when he bought that car, I knew that he was going to sell it in a year. And as soon as he announced that he bought it, I said, in 1 year, I'm going to buy this car from you. I didn't know how I was going to get the money, but that was just my goal. And in a year, I bought it. So I think I bought it for, $36,000, which is, a lot of money, but, in grand scheme of things, it's probably not a lot of money because it's like a loaded Camry, would cost. So
yeah. Was that Aston manual, or did it have that? Yeah,
manual,
nice. Yeah, that generation of automatics were horrible.
I mean, it wasn't even a real automatic. It was the sport shift, the floppy paddle. Yeah, it wasn't very good.
Yeah, no, it was horrendous. The the one I can definitely, I myself am not much of a wrench. I don't get down on the cars quite like I used to, but we've had to deal with a few different Gallardos, and back in the early days when we started back in 2012, the first Lamborghinis we offered to the public to drive were the original Gallardos, and those things were just riddled with issues. The transmission lines, I think a couple times, two different models, the hydraulic E-gear line ruptured and created like a fire essentially in the engine bay. So that was a little scary. Huge upgrade with the LP560. But there's definitely, I guess my question is going to be, I know we've also banged up a couple Lamborghinis way back in the day, and the rebuild process was pretty significant. Just finding people who knew how to weld on the aluminum, the chassis of a Lamborghini, stuff like that was very difficult. How do you approach that? I mean, I guess even getting into it, not being a Lambo tech yourself or something, how do you even approach knowing where to start?
Well, I mean, a car is a car. It's made with the same processes as any other car. It's just Lamborghini has parts that are hard to find. So with a Gallardo, it's a little bit easier because they made 14,000 of them. So as far as a Lambo is concerned, it's not super difficult to find parts. Now, like if you get into like the Mercies or Diablos or the Countachs, where they made sometimes 100 or a few hundred in a year or something like that, that gets a little dicey for finding parts, because then it's like real expensive. But as far as repairing a Lamborghini, it's not really as hard as you think. If you strip apart the body, it's just like aluminum box section. And if you know the measurements, and if you get the measurements from somewhere else, you can kind of rebuild it on your own. I'm learning that right now. I have McLaren 675 LT back there, and you know, they only made 500 of those cars, but what I've learned is they do have a lot of parts compatibility with like the MP412C, 650S. I mean, it's basically a 650S.
Yeah.
But you know, there are body panels that are specific to that car, which means that they're very, very, very expensive, and they're made of carbon fiber.
Yeah.
And you know, they're not making any more. But other than that, like the underpinnings are usually mixed with other models, just because it's going to cost them a lot more money to make a one-off model. You know, it doesn't matter what manufacturer it is, they're going to try to cut costs at some point.
Yeah,
so
for sure. It's
you know, it's just trying to get to a place where you're comfortable. And at the end of the day, a car is a car. It just might be a little bit more expensive.
one of the things that came up in a couple of questions, and I actually, as soon as I saw it, I was like, definitely know the pain, which is the McLaren like ECU system. Everything on those cars are so interconnected, and you know, one sensor being out can basically mess up the whole car. And how are you approaching that? I mean, they've probably got the most proprietary computer system of any of the cars that I know we've dealt with. Do you have like a DaVinci scan tool, or how are you even approaching that?
So the McLaren system is interesting. I haven't gotten to the electrical portion yet, but my solution is going to be, I'm probably going to have to buy the specific like OEM tool, which is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
So I know that if you want to diagnose one car, like one VIN number, it's something like $7,000 or something.
Yeah.
Which is good if you want to avoid the dealer, which I definitely do, because if I take this car to a dealer, they're going to be like, get this thing out of here.
Yeah.
So it's hopefully I won't need to do that, because when a car gets crashed but still runs, it won't, you know, like hopefully everything's there. Like it's not going to be too angry at things. When you start modifying things and then you try to make them work, that's when things get a little dicey. But I'll just cross that bridge when I get there. I mean, hopefully everything works as it should. And if I have any sort of issues, I'll just track them down. I know that has a ton of computers in it, but that also gives me a lot more information than I would usually have. So it tells me what's wrong with the car. I just have to find a way to diagnose it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a challenge that our technicians deal with all the time, which is the walled garden of these different cars. And you know, you can sometimes only scan down the path so far until you need that proprietary, you know, system to figure out what the actual error code is or whatever that may be. But we're getting a lot of questions about the McLaren. The most common thing I'm being asked right now, I'm seeing, and I guess I don't know if you're seeing this too, but are you able to get up and show us anything in the garage? I think that's what most people here are really excited to see. We can jump back into some more questions, but I feel like
sure. Let me get up then.
One of the questions that I did want to ask that popped up earlier is how do you actually approach that first step? Like if you go use the McLaren as an example, but do you like create a spreadsheet and just start going down a list of things that you think you're going to need, or like, you know, where does that process begin? Because the videos typically start with you saying, you know, wow, this is a messed up car and I'm going to get to work on it. But what I think a lot of the questions come from what happens in between acquisition and that point.
So I have to get my hands on the car. Usually I buy the car sight unseen. So I only have a few pictures to go by. And then I look up the common issues with that car. So let's say the transmission is likely to go, or it has this and this electrical issue. So I look up solutions to that. And then I give myself like a best case scenario. So with McLaren, I'll show you what's going on with it.
This is awesome. This is by far the most requested thing, because I think, you know, when you publish that video about the McLaren, obviously a lot of people were like, holy crap. And then, you know, even looking at the comments of it just recently, it's like, what the happened to this car? What's the update with the McLaren?
Yeah.
So everyone's anxious to know.
Yeah, so the McLaren right here, it's been hit in the front, and then it made like a 180, and then it hit in the back, hit a pole. I'll show you what's over here. So it's pretty well knackered. All of this is carbon fiber. So I figured that this would probably be a worst case scenario where I have to replace the frame. Now, this has an aluminum frame and it has a carbon tub. And both of those are very lightweight, but they're also very, very expensive. So I ended up getting a frame from a 650S for next to nothing. I mean, considering McLaren prices. So I
Wow.
got that. I'm going to have to take apart this entire car. I mean, down to the last nut and bolt, like
Yeah.
everything from the back of the
Yeah.
car, all the body panels, all that stuff, just to see what I have, and then replace the frame, obviously take out the engine and all that stuff, then put everything back, and then hopefully it all sort of works.
Yeah.
But this car has it has no blown airbags, nothing like that. It hit in the front, kind of like on the bottom, and it just ripped open the bumper. But other than that, it's like, it's all pretty much together, and it's kind of superficial damage. So this is one of my favorite cars ever. I love the shape of this car. I think this is probably like top 2 or 3 McLarens for me. Like my favorite car of all time is the McLaren F1.
Hmm.
I love the fact that this is a long tail, so it's sort of reminiscent of the LT from the McLaren F1. And I love the P1. So this is the headlights and the general shape looks very P1-ish.
Yep.
So this is the only one I could afford, especially in this state. I mean, a good one would go for like $250,000 or somewhere thereabouts. So I certainly can't afford that, but I love the look of this car.
Dude, yeah, we had the McLaren MP412C in our fleet years ago, and it was always riddled with issues. We were always chasing down some sort of issue with those cars. They were overheating and they would trip off various sensors, and it was really a mess. But the first time I ever drove that car, it felt like it was from the future. It was like a spaceship compared to a Lamborghini, or even at the time the 458 Italia. It was like you got that turbo whoosh and just you can see in the rearview mirror the wings pop up, and just like totally cool experience. The doors, the billionaire doors, which shout out to your funny video where you had to basically break the door open on that McLaren.
Yeah. There's I'll show you. There's like a fishing wire down here. Like you got to kind of pull it because it has electronic doors and the battery's missing. So you got to pull it real hard, and that's how the door opens.
That's too funny. Did that generation have the weird touch sensitive door handle like the MP4?
No, so the MP4 only had that for I think 1 year, for 2012, and then they realized that was a real bad idea. So here you can see that they just had a regular button.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was the biggest pain in the butt, was trying to show people, and then sometimes it wouldn't work, and you're just like look like you're caressing a weird McLaren.
Yeah, especially in the rain, it didn't want to work.
Yeah.
I recently got this car. This is a 2009 Aston Martin DBS, and this is my ultimate dream car. I've lusted after this since it came out, and this is actually the full James Bond spec. I'm not a big James Bond fan, but this is like exactly the one he drives in Casino Royale. The color is Casino Royale, 6-speed manual, black interior with Alcantara, all that stuff. And like this is basically my sporty daily driver for now.
Yeah.
But
it's a great option.
I love it so much.
Yeah, man. It's those cars. We've had a variety of Astons as well. DBS.
Mm-hmm.
We've had the Vantage, the V12. By the way, a couple questions popping up. What did you end up doing with the car from Car Trek?
So the car, well, first of all, shout out to Car Trek. The car I had in Car Trek was a 2015 Aston Martin V12 Vantage S, and that was an awesome car, but I ended up trading that car plus cash for this to the same guy that I bought it from. So it was really funny. I bought the car, and then I give the guy a call back like 2 weeks later. I go, hey, do you want the car back? Because I see that you're selling this car. And I'm like, maybe I could trade it in plus cash. And then he wanted a lot more than I was willing to give him. But then this whole virus thing happened. And what happened was nobody was buying cars. So we ended up, kind of doing an Ed Bolian-ish negotiation where we met, smack dab in the middle at whatever my price was.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it ended up, working out well. This car is definitely slower than the V12 Vantage S. It has 510 horsepower versus 565. It feels a little slower, but I like this car a lot better. And I think it's actually going to appreciate versus the Vantage, which I don't think will.
Speaking of, you have an interesting perspective on the car market, and this is something that a lot of our guests ask Ed as well, which is, what do you think is going to happen to the car market right now with the way things are going? And do you think we're going to be flooded with more luxury cars because people are getting rid of them? You know, any thoughts on what's a great opportunity to buy, anything like that?
Yeah, so right now, anything that was extremely expensive and didn't necessarily command a super high price tag. Let's say like an Aventador. You know, Aventadors are expensive, but they made a lot of them.
Yep.
So if you got like a base model Aventador that somebody would want maybe $250 for, like that would be deeply discounted now, just because nobody's buying those things.
Yeah.
And I would wager. I mean, the really rare cars, the ones that are sought after, they're always going to command a high price tag, and people can always just wait it out because, like, let's say, you know, a car like that, they're not making, that's the last, like, big body V12 Aston Martin with the manual. They're never making another one again. So
yeah.
I wouldn't ever need to sell this. But if it was something that had, you know, a flappy paddle transmission and just was something that somebody would eventually upgrade from, then you could get a really good deal. Like, let's say a McLaren MP412C. They made a decent amount of those cars, and they were the first iteration. Obviously, the later ones are better, but that is a lot of car for the money. So you realistically could find them in the 60s to 70s, you know, with a few miles and whatnot. So yeah. I would say if you're in the car market, you could probably get something now, you know, between now and the end of the summer for a really good price. But then the issue becomes, like, are you making any money? Because a lot of people are out of jobs and, you know, they don't have any money to spend.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that, you know, that's the fun thing about actually these videos that Ed's been publishing. I think you answered the last couple of them, you know, given a budget, what would you buy type questions. It's pretty much the favorite game that everybody around the office plays. And now it feels more real than ever because it's kind of like,
oh yeah,
what I do right now. But yeah, at the same time, you kind of want to hold on to some cash because who knows what's going to happen. So
yeah, I mean, well, also the cash thing is interesting because we don't know how much the cash is going to actually be worth. Because right now the government is putting a lot of extra cash into the market. They're just that inflation's going to go up. So it might make sense to get, you know, a car like this or a Mercy or something where that is worth what it's worth. It has an intrinsic value to somebody, whether it's here or overseas or anywhere else. I mean, again, these are finite. They're finite quality, and they're not going to be making anymore. So, you know, people are still going to love cars regardless of how the economy is doing.
That's a great point. I hadn't actually thought about it that way. Now I'm like, we've got a few people asking to see what's around some garages. So real quick, I'm just going to do a quick pan around my garage, and then if you could just show what's in yours. But I'm going to turn my camera around. We're speaking about McLaren, so got a couple 570Ss right here. Okay. These cars are all actually for sale. So if anybody wants a 458, a Huracan, a GT3, these ones are, I think, on their way out. But
how much is the GT3?
You know what? I'd have to check on that. I don't know what the price is.
Do you have any cars with like super high miles on them?
Not typically, no. We kind of know where we want to go with the mileage, and then we'll flip them for a number of reasons. Like you would know, like at certain mileages, you're going to have certain issues pop up, or plus just the fact we want to keep them fresh and they're easier to maintain when they're, you know, before they start having any sort of major issues. We've got right now we got a bunch of Chevy SSs on the lift.
Oh, nice.
And we actually give people, what we'll do is when you come to drive a supercar at our experience, we'll send you out for some laps in one of these cars first. And so they're driven by a professional driver. They're really capable cars, but then our guys go through, and you can see right now this bumper's off, but they're doing all sorts of work to get this thing ready to go rip around a racetrack. We've got some extra, you know, cooling set up here. Right. Extra radiators. And then the suspension gets upgraded, and brakes. We put Z06 brakes up front.
Very cool.
I think these are stock, or maybe these are CTS-V brakes on the back. That's the cool thing about these cars is you can swap out all these different GM parts. Got the Hellcat wide body here. Another GT3. Huracan. Here's the GT500. Right. Got a couple. I guess you got a new one of those showing up later this week. Avio. A whole bunch of more Chevy SSs. Got 991 and 991.2 GT3s, more Huracans. I don't know where all of our Ferraris are right now. There's definitely more 488s. I only see 2 of them. But so that's the quick rock around to answer everybody's questions.
Okay.
Why don't you show what you got in your garage?
Sure. So this is actually a very famous Civic. You can see it from here. This has been on memes for, years and years and years. This was, if you ever seen like the fried rice meme, I actually bought the car. So this was built by a guy, like when he was 16, and this entire body kit, all this wide body, is metal. So you see, it's like, yeah, it's really, really cool. So I bought this from a yard in Florida. I just got it to the shop a few days ago. So has Lambo doors, really cool. Cool. Doesn't have any engine, nothing like that, but this is going to be a really, really cool build. Doing it with in conjunction with Advanced Auto Parts. So that's going to be coming up next few months or so. This is the aforementioned 675 LT. I have 2 Nissan Pulsars back here. You can see with some McLaren parts on the top. These are, I got these cars essentially for free. I got this for like $125. That was free. I have a SR20 engine waiting to go into this. I got these because these are really cool. This one's called a Sportback. You can actually see back there, there's a little like camper top. And that was really, really, really rare. And they're like these 80s modular sort of hatchback sporty coupes. So, right now they're on the back burner. I'm not sure, maybe I'll get rid of them without doing anything to them, but I want to put these 2 together and make one functional car. That's here awesome. We have my Lexus SE300. I built this when I was 19, and I had 2 graffiti artists do this car up. Now the paint is horrible, and it has a bunch of like stencils on the front. And I did not ask for this. They just put my face on it. Like, I didn't ask for I came to my friend's house, and he was like, hey, what do you think? And I'm like, okay. And also we have dead memes right here. We got a good dead meme. Above that, a Range Rover. This was my dad's old car, and he ended up getting some Hyundai as a lease. So he said, hey, maybe you should fix it up. So just been sitting here. Air suspension is just kind of dropped, so I got to fix that. There, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a low mileage example. I ended up probably selling it or something. The aforementioned Aston Martin DBS. I mean, it has some miles on it. It's not exactly perfect, but it has about 30,000 miles on it. But just an amazing spec. I love this car. This is my other daily driver, S600. This is twin turbo V12, tuned, makes around 600 horsepower crank. But I mean, it heat soaks pretty good after that, so it's not like, it's not going to do 600 horsepower all day. But it's just a really good place to be. I bought this from Tyler Hoover. Moving over here, we have the Lamborghini Murcielago from the Fate of the Furious. This is just a $1 million show car. So this is one of my favorite cars. I love driving it. The only thing I don't love is the attention that it gets. Yeah. So I'm more of a car guy like this, where this will blend in, but you'll still have a lot of fun. This will have a lot of fun, but everybody knows it. Everybody recognizes you and takes pictures and tries to race you and all that stuff. Yep. So, this is just like a dream car. This is going into the Peterson Museum probably late this year or early next year for an exhibit. Right here is my 2008 Lamborghini Gallardo Spider. And this is twin turbo. I can show you the twin turbo setup in the back if I can get around to it. So, I mean, this is all sort of custom. Yeah, man, that's sick. Yeah. I mean, it's whatever I can do in my driveway and garage. Right here is my Toyota Supra, and we have Jared. Hi, Jared. Yeah. What's up, Jared? Oh, okay. We're actually watching the live stream. Look at that. Hey, look at that. Look at that. So they're watching the live stream. So it's Jared and Rex. Rex is a detailer here. And this is my Toyota Supra. We're about to get it ready to go on the dyno. So that should be a lot of fun. Hopefully it makes 600 or 700 horsepower. That used to be Matt Farah's million-mile Lexus, and now it is my million-mile Lexus. So that's getting a full restoration. The original idea was going to be to put a turbo on it and then kind of send it on the dyno and then see how it blows up. People didn't like that idea. They wanted me to restore it to its former glory.
Preserve
So that's, yeah, preserve it because it has a lot of history, and I sort of agree with them. So that's what's going to happen. Then we have my 3000 GT VR4, and this is one of 287 that came to the States. Again, one of my favorite cars, has Rota P45Rs. We took it on a road rally. It runs and drives like a car from 1975. It's not exactly the greatest driving thing in the world, but it does need some refurbishment, but it just looks amazing right now. We have
that was a car.
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. In high school, I really wanted one of those. I don't know how old you are. I'm 35. So
yeah, I'm 33. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like, man, I knew a guy with one, and it was just super cool.
Yeah, I mean, I love these. I think this is one of those cars that really grows on you, and the fact that the 99 had a 1-year-only body kit where you had this really stupid wing in the back. Like, everybody asks, oh, why'd you get that wing? I'm like, no, it's stock. Like, they came like this.
It's a decent stock wing, though. I mean, it's a bit extra, but it looks good.
Well, this is the kind of wing that they put on Evos and stuff. So
yeah.
It's, all-wheel drive, all-wheel steering, twin turbo, 6-speed manual. It's a really good car. Over here, we have the Audi R8, a 2015, and this is not mine, but this is my friend Eric's. And this is actually one of the most important cars in the garage because this is the last manual R8 ever made.
Whoa.
So, like, the last one. If you look up, like, there's no 2015 V8s like listed under any sort of registry except for this one. It's the only 2015 V8, and I believe it's the last gated manual of any manufacturer ever. So we just got done putting a new engine in this because it has about 143,000 miles.
Wow.
And I mean, it looks fantastic. I just got done driving it, and it's just like, it is a really nice place to be. I prefer this to my Lamborghini, to be honest with you, just like from the inside.
Yeah.
Working on it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's a beautiful engine. The car sounds great, and now it should go for another 100 or 200,000 miles. But
man, I gotta say, the R8 is like, we've been through every generation of R8, and that generation, we never had manuals, obviously, because we're letting people drive them on racetracks. But even before they put the dual clutches in it, it was a pretty decent transmission. But the build quality, we put that was a car we did put some miles on. We put like 35,000 track miles on that R8 V8, and it before it ever had a single issue. And the first issue it had, I think, was a clutch bearing issue, or I forget what it was. But those things are bulletproof, and the sound system is great. They're really comfortable to drive. It's a great car. The only thing is that is never going to be as exotic as that, even though they're like basically the same car. Yeah.
Also, I have my Ferrari F355 here, and that is a 3-rotor Mazda rotary with a Mendiola sequential 5-speed manual. So it's seen a little bit better days, but we are about to put that engine in the car, make it a roller, and then I'm going to make that a Berlinetta because I have half a Ferrari over there, so that's going to be like a hardtop grafting on. So that's going to be fun. Hopefully it'll be done by SEMA. I don't know if SEMA is going to be a thing this year, but who knows? It's also going to be wide body. I'm working with Mitchell Button. He does the button built stuff, and it's just like really crazy wide body stuff. Over there is the car I'm going to be working on today and hopefully finishing by the end of the week. This is my 2004 Bentley Continental GT. This has been in Russia for the last 10 years or something, and I had to put a new engine in it. And putting a new engine in this car is interesting, to say the least.
Which engine is in it?
This is the W12, 6-liter W12 twin turbo.
Nice.
So yeah, it's if you see this as a rat's nest, believe me, it's a lot worse than it looks. This is like the most confusing car I've ever worked on, and specifically because I took it apart so long ago, and I don't remember where anything goes anymore. But we're putting an exhaust in, new Fab Speed exhaust, and doing brakes on it and stuff. So this should be running and driving by the end of the week. And then that's going bye-bye, and something else is coming into the garage. So, I'm always kind of rotating stuff and getting new stuff. So.
Is the goal on that Bentley to make it loud with the Fab Speed, to actually make that W12 louder?
It's still going to have resonators and cats, so it's not going to be like super duper loud, but they do sound okay when they have when they're uncorked. They make a little bit more power, so I think that's probably where I'm going with it. I can always put another muffler on it in case it is too loud. I don't think it will be, so we'll see what happens with that.
That's awesome, man. Our very, very first event we ever hosted back in 2011, we actually had a Bentley GTC as something people could drive. That was back when we were coming from being a rental business into doing the track thing. And I remember ripping that thing around a racetrack, and it was just, clearly not intended for that. But it was very comfortable and a badass car. So I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. It's
a very luxurious car.
Yeah, but it weighs as much as the Range Rover, so it's 6,000 pounds. That's
crazy. I saw this question pop up just a minute ago, looking at like tools in your garage and stuff. So I came over here. It looks like we have the same lifts, these Benpack 4-posts.
Oh yeah.
Yep. What's your favorite? This is a weird question. What's your favorite tool, or what do you use the most? That could be anything from a Phillips screwdriver to a.
We use everything. I have my, this is all detailing equipment. We use pretty much everything. One really cool thing, actually, I got a care package from a company called Rogue Fabrication, and they sent over this really cool pipe bender, which you can make like roll cages and crash bars and stuff like that.
Wow.
So I'm very excited to start using this. It's a mandrel bender, so you can make like these really awesome bends. You can do pipe cuts. You can do dimple dies, that sort of thing. So I really like this thing, even though I haven't used it. But the Benpack lifts, I do love. I have the 2-post over there. I just all the tools are kind of scattered everywhere right now. I have the Tang tools over there, my metal workbenches with a ton of stuff on them. So, everything really gets used. The parts washer over there, that yellow box, that is really interesting because, I deal with a lot of dirty cars. So parts washing is very necessary. I have the tire mounting and balancing right there, and that saves a lot of time because if you need to change tires or balance them, I can just do it right here. So I end up using everything.
That's our tire setup here.
Oh, awesome.
Got a few different machines. Lots of tires behind me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you definitely need them.
That's cool, man. I know another tool just while I'm standing next to it. Our mechanics have been obsessed with this new alignment rack that we just got because we do a whole lot of alignments, and they used to do them with the level and putting the bolts onto but this thing they can crank them out real quick. So it's badass. I'm gonna go to the questions, the specific questions that have been popping up down in the question submission section. So I'm just gonna go ahead and see. What do either of you recommend as a good first exotic other than the obvious Gallardo or 458?
Okay, so the Gallardo, it all depends on what you want. I wouldn't say the Gallardo is the best first exotic. I would say that the best first exotic is the newest one you can afford because they tend to be a lot better in terms of reliability, in terms of parts availability. And really, you can daily drive like a Huracan or 458 or whatever. Like, you can daily drive them all day. Like a Mercy, you can't do that. You can't really drive that car. Even when my Gallardo, you could probably daily drive that, but it's now modified and it's not the best thing to drive. But now you can definitely do that, especially if it's a manual. I would just get the newest one you could. If it's a dual clutch, well, definitely get one with a dual clutch. Don't get one with like a single clutch automated because those tend to burn out really quickly, especially on the Gallardos and especially on the older Ferraris, like a 360 or a 430. I wouldn't get any of those. Either a full manual or a dual clutch.
Those are good points. Yeah, the single clutch automated gearboxes are pretty much horrible in any car. I think the Ferrari F430 was pretty good, and especially the Scuderia when that thing was quick and it was snappy. Yeah. But that was probably the best
one that I've seen.
Yeah. I got a couple of questions real quick. I was just going to answer. Xtreme Xperience, for those are asking. We go to racetracks all across the country. So I'm in a warehouse here in Chicago, but we go to 30 plus racetracks across the country. Obviously right now events, we're all kind of stuck here in Chicago. But as soon as the tracks open back up, we're going to be back out at the racetracks all over the U.S. So if you were curious, head to our website. We've got a big map. You can see all the pinpoints that we're going to. And again, a lot of you guys who are new to Xtreme Xperience, our mission is to put you behind the wheel of exotic cars. That's our goal. Is we're not pretentious about them. These are not cars for sale. These are for you to come out and drive on racetracks all over the country. So that's just to answer a number of questions that have been kind of popping up. What else we got here? What's your favorite V12 car?
I mean, that's hard. That's hard to say because I'm fortunate in that I do have a few V12 cars. I think right now it's probably this one. That is probably my favorite V12 car. But depending on the day, it might be that one. So, they're both NA V12s. I love the NA V12s. But also, sometimes that one, if you just want to just cruise and go really, really, really ridiculously fast for short periods of time. So, that's like, I think the Aston Martin is probably my favorite V12 car right now because it's the best all around. But if you want to make a ton of noise and just kind of scare the crap out of everybody, you get that one.
That's a great answer because I know, people ask me all the time what my favorite car in our fleet is or whatever, and it really just depends on the mood you're in. You can like them all. It's like I've explained it before. It's like trying to say your favorite best friend or something. You're best friends with people for different reasons, and same thing with cars. Like you just get different vibes from them or different moods, put you in different, any given day it might be different.
Of course. Yeah, it's like asking which one of your children do you love more.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a question. Any SUV content coming to your channel?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we're talking about that Range Rover there. Like, maybe, depends on if people like it. There's definitely going to be some truck stuff because I have a truck, F350. I have a few cars at home as well. So I have a F350 dually, and I have a little Honda Beat K car. And I have a Mercedes SL55 that's actually at the body shop right now, getting a paint job, and that's getting a manual conversion. So, yeah, I mean, the truck stuff I like. I want to do some off-road builds, and SUVs, maybe if they get views, maybe people like them, then I'll do more.
Very cool. Here's another one. Let's see. I'm just going to kind of rapid fire these because they're just flooding in right now. Favorite car you've ever driven? And actually, I'll make this easier. What's your favorite car that's like on the market? Because I would assume you probably gotten out to some press events and stuff and driven some fun new cars. So favorite car, like either current or last year or so, and then just favorite car you've ever driven.
Well, I mean, the favorite car has to be, again, one of those two, depending on the day. So either Aston Martin DBS or Lamborghini Mercy. The McLarens are really good. I have never driven a 695 LT, so I wager that's probably going to be a very good experience. So, and if I want to do something more JDM, probably going to be the Supra. So, favorite car, again, it's one of those questions where, which one of your fingers do you like the most,
Yeah.
They serve different purposes, and they all sort of, make sense.
This came up earlier. I don't know. I can't find the question in our pop-ups anymore, but do you have track experience or what is your experience with performance driving? Do you go to track days?
I've done track days. I am not the world's best driver, and I'm not very experienced with track driving, but I have been on, I've done track days with Michelin. I've done the usual press events and all that stuff. But it's, it's something I want to get more into. But what I've noticed is with stuff like this, you have diminishing returns, which, it costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of time to get like really, really good. Like people are going to the track every weekend and they're spending thousands of dollars on tires and travel and hotels, and that takes a toll on my family and my channel and all that stuff. So I'd love to do more of that, but to be honest, I enjoy building them more. I enjoy building them and just driving them spiritedly to however much I can drive. Like I know that I'm not driving them anywhere near what they're capable of, and that's fine with me. I don't need to, I'm not a fast driver, so, just to maybe floor the throttle every once in a while, that's fine. But I do know a lot of people that absolutely need to do the, I need to be 10/10 all the time. Somebody has a alarm going on? Okay, sorry.
No, it's something that I think is important for a lot of people watching, especially some younger guys and stuff. It's like there's this perception of what a car enthusiast is supposed to be. Like some people would lead you to believe you've got to be out on the track and you've got to have track built cars, and other people it's you got to be wrenching on cars, or other people it's it could be more like customizing or. But the thing is, there is no right answer. You can be into cars and not be into the racetrack. You can just be into exotic cars. You could be into JDM cars, but not go out tracking them or drifting or whatever it may be. So, we're kind of on two different ends of the spectrum here. You're actually putting your hands wrenching on cars. You enjoy building them. I wish I had the time to do it. I don't. So we built a company that allows me to go have fun with cars on a racetrack,
of course,
and live out my childhood dreams. But they're different strokes for different folks, right?
Of course, yeah. I mean, you don't have to. Like, there's a lot of people that say you're not a real car guy if you don't have wrenching experience or something. That's not true.
Yeah.
So it just means that we like different things, but the cars are bringing us together.
Absolutely. Let's see. Have you driven the new C8?
Yes, I have driven a new C8, and it's a very, very, very good looking car, and it's a very well sorted car. The only thing I don't like about the C8 is kind of the rear quarter panel. It's a little weird to me. Like, it seems like a little too tall. And I know that they did this because they have to put the golf clubs in the back, and they have to have storage and stuff.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a game changer because I don't know what it's going to do to the market of Gallardos and 360s and stuff, because that's going to be right there, and it just beats those in terms of numbers.
Yeah.
But I think, later on when they start depreciating, that's when you're going to get some really, really interesting builds.
Yeah, no, like people are already twin turboing them, and it's definitely going to be a great platform. It seems like to have a lot of fun with.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There's so much in the comments earlier. People were going back and forth about the C8, but I'm not sure if you could see that. But so much hate towards that car, but also so much love for it. Let's see.
I mean, it's the case with any car that's polarizing, because some people think that the C8 shouldn't be mid-engined or whatever. Things change. And I think it changed for the better. That car is, like, just for the money, it is the most insane value that you can get. It's not it's not an exotic, I wouldn't say. I think it's definitely a sports car. It's definitely a great sports car. But it's not going to be exotic. They're making $30,000 a year, which just blows every other manufacturer out of the water with those kind of, performance metrics. So, it's never going to be a McLaren or a Ferrari, even though it's going to punch up to that class.
Yeah. No, I agree. A question that popped up is, let's see, where'd it go? Are you into gaming at all? Do you do any driving games or any other type of gaming?
I haven't done any gaming at all for like a few years now, mainly because where I live, I can only get satellite internet, and the ping on that is just atrocious. Yeah. And I honestly haven't had time to do any of that. The only gaming I do is maybe one-player games. Like a year ago or something, I picked up Red Dead Redemption. I beat it, and I'm like, okay, that's it for me for a while. But I'd love to do more sim racing. Like, we're actually looking into doing a sim racing rig. Like, we want to make a lounge area in my shop and do a sim racing rig, maybe out of an actual car, which would be kind of a cool build.
That'd be dope.
So, I'd love to do more of that, but I just, it's just the time aspect, and I'd have to start from the bottom. So that's, there's a learning curve there.
Yeah. Do you, let's see, are you seeing these comments? You got a lot of fans here. You got, where'd it go? Someone just said that they're your biggest fan. Let's see, who was that? Manny Grams. Hey, Tavarish, I'm one of your biggest fans.
Oh, cool.
Hello. People says everyone's wearing masks make me feel like, oh, like I'm in Mortal Kombat. Let's see. Oh, a lot of questions coming up about your opinion of the best first car. I mean, that's a wide open question.
Yeah, I mean, I get this a lot, and I'm sure that every car guy gets this. Like, what's the best first car? The best first car is it all depends on what you want out of a car. Do you need a daily driver? Do you need to pick people up from the airport? Do you have siblings? Do you have family members? Do you need gas mileage? Do you want to learn how a car drives, and do you need car control? You know, I'd say the best. You have to see what your top 3 or 5 things are, and then just look at your budget and see what the best car on that budget can be. So usually when they come at me with that question is it's like for an enthusiast, and I usually tell them it's like a Nissan 350Z, something like that, because it has really good aftermarket support. Not exactly the most, it's not the best car in the world, but you can make them sound okay. And there's a lot of you can grow with the car. So you can add a supercharger, you can add a twin turbo, you can make them look cool, and they are really, really, really cheap. I mean, you can find them for like $2,000 if they need a little work. So that, a G35, something that if the engine blows, you can just go to the junkyard and get a new one. You can load the wrench on one. I would probably stay away from anything German if it's like a first car, because it's going to really kind of spoil you, or not spoil you, it might ruin you. Because there's a lot of things that should make sense, but they don't, as far as, taking it apart and getting it repaired. The repairs tend to be a lot more. So, I grew up with 90s cars, like the 90s JDM stuff. So, like the Lexus over there, like super easy to work on, Supra, super easy to work on. So, that's how I grew up. So that answer is going to be tailored to that. So I don't know if it's still the case. Like maybe you get a hot hatch, maybe you get like a Ford Fiesta or something. Maybe that's the new thing. But usually Honda Civics or something that has a aftermarket, you can grow with it. And then worst case scenario, you just sell it and move on to something else.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, also to your point about whatever. I mean, my first car, I learned how to drive a '94 Chevy Suburban, and because my family wasn't really into sports cars or anything, and my first car was a 2000 Chevy Blazer. And in lieu of turning it into a fast car, I modded it out with subwoofers and neon lights and all that stuff back when I was younger. But it was fun, and it was a project, and it was, one thing leads to another, folks. It's
that's how it works. I mean, it doesn't matter what car you get. You can always build memory. I mean, that's what cars are about. If you get a first car, you're going to be building memories with that car, and that car is an extension of you, and it is a method of freedom. For you to go do whatever. So it doesn't matter what car it is. I mean, you can make the case that, you can get a PT Cruiser. Like, who cares, as long as it gets you where you need to go and you like it.
I agree 100%. The freedom thing's important because there's so many kids not getting licenses these days because Uber makes it so easy. But here's a question. Mark Morrill asked a couple times. What's up, Mark? I see all your comments. Thank you. He says top speed achieved for both of you. I'll start. The fastest I've ever gone, I think, was 162 miles an hour in a Lamborghini Huracan at NOLA Motorsports Park. And I think that's it. Yeah. How about you?
So I've done 180 on the Autobahn on a Porsche driving event. Like, it was the Panamera launch. So they gave us keys to the new the Cayenne Turbo S. So it's like their 577 horsepower, big SUV, carbon ceramic brakes, all that stuff. So what's interesting is that they gave us the keys to these things that were worth like $200,000. They didn't ask me if I had a driver's license. They didn't ask me if I knew how to drive a car. I guess they vetted me before, but they just put me on a road with no speed limit and then just said, hey, just meet us here at this time. And yeah, we got up to 290 kilometers an hour, which is around 180, but that's indicated, so it might have been a little lower. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that's an SUV that does that, and it still had 2 gears to go because it's an 8-speed. So it could have done a few miles an hour over that. And it was very, very smooth. It didn't feel like we were going that fast until you hit the brakes, and then it feels like you're going that fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of scary to slow down from speeds that high. It's a very weird feeling. That's a question we get a lot about. How fast can you go at our experiences as well? You can go as fast as your ability and the track length can allow. So there's no speed limits at our program. You can go as fast. So if you've got, like Noel, the Motorsports Park where I went has a 3,200 foot long straightaway. So, you know, if you come out of the 2 turns leading the straightaway with all the momentum and you really hit it, that's how fast you can go. So it really depends. To go over 130 or 40 on a racetrack in America is fast. There's not a lot of really, really fast tracks here. So anytime you get a car, because then you're going to dive the car down into a corner, and that's fast. So a lot of folks say, you know, I can go 140 in my Honda on the highway or something, but you know.
You have like 5 miles to do it. Like it's going to take you a year to get there.
Yeah.
When I was doing car track in the V12 Vantage S, we were on PPIR, and I got up to like 130 on the straight, and I mean that was quick. That was fast. And you really have to get on those brakes because right after the straight, it's a hairpin. So you have to work those brakes. But people don't understand that when you go fast in a car, the sensation of speed slows down. You're not acceleration is what people really want, and they're like, you can't feel speed until you stop, until you suddenly stop.
Yep.
So you know, you can be going 200 miles an hour. And it's not going to feel like anything. Or you could get up to 60 and it's going to feel like, you know, your organs are going to be pulled out of your body. So that's, you know, it all depends on what people want. I'm not a speed guy. Like anytime people go, hey, why don't you do a half-mile event and do like 180 miles an hour in this twin turbo Lambo? I'm like, I don't feel like I need to do that. Like, because if something goes wrong in the car, it goes really wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and my car is a convertible. There's no roof, so you know that's kind of a problem. And I'm pretty risk averse. Like I'm very, very cautious. So I mean, I love to do the quarter mile and stuff, but when it comes to half mile and mile events, people think that they're like these clean cut things, but like man, you can get. It's like seriously dangerous. These cars going upwards of 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And if you don't have your safety and you don't know what your car's capable of, you don't know what you're capable of, then you know it's kind of a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, so we've got like a minute and a half remaining before Instagram kicks us off. Why don't you real quick, whether it's, I would assume most people know where to find you, but what are you working on? Where would you want to send people to check out what you got going on?
There's a few people who are saying that they're getting some interference with my mic. It's probably, I mean, my phone might be getting a little bit hot, but what I'm going to be working on is McLaren, the Audi R8, and the Bentley back there. So that's basically what I'm going to be working on, plus a lot of other stuff that I should have sort of finished by now. So, you know, just everything at once. And everybody always complains that these projects aren't finished, and you know, it's just kind of the nature of the beast.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you've got a lot of things going on. So for people to be demanding that projects get done, it's there's a lot that goes into it. You got to get parts a lot of times, especially with these exotic and luxury cars. You got to wait for parts to come. We're actually in a situation where parts coming from Italy are, you know, like Lamborghini, Ferrari factories. You know, they're making breathers right now. So there's a lot of things that can hold projects up. So be patient with this man.
Yeah, I mean the same thing with the McLaren. Finding McLaren parts is really hard, and a lot of my parts are kind of stuck in the UK because.
Hey, so as you can see, we got cut off a little bit early there from Instagram, but I want to say huge thanks again to Freddy for joining us live today, and thank you to everybody who joined us and engaged in the conversation. Just a reminder, we're doing this every Wednesday at noon, so be sure to follow Xtreme Xperience on Instagram, and ideally turn on those post notifications. You'll get notifications when we do go live for these, so you can catch it in real time next time. And hey, if you like this shirt, head to the link in our bio. We're selling this Keep Calm and Drive On merchandise, and we're donating $5 from every purchase to Feeding America. So supporting a great cause. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.